Hey yo, what is up? Today we are going to look at all the 4 skins from the G.I. Joe event. Of course, you guys already know 4 skins from G.I. Joe event. 2 new skins, including this one, the STRV S1 and the Renegade. The old skins were on the TS5 American tank destroyer and the T-54 Soviet medium tank. That was the old skins. This is the new one. Of course, G.I. Joe is a plastic toy and they really did a good job on making all the tanks look plastic. They look like real toy tanks. The amount of detail is fantastic. If you look at the road wheels and the drive wheels, the tracks, they really look plasticky. So in terms of visual representation, man, I think they knocked it out of the park. This is of course the STRV S1. It comes with rocket launchers, a dozen of them in fact. Of course they don't work in game. Don't expect them to work. They still function like a normal STRV, which is actually already pretty great. If you don't know anything about the STRV S1, it's a tank destroyer, a tank that I don't really play, but I play against this tank a lot in tier 8 battles, and this thing has 288 penetration on standard shells. This means you can fire standard shells almost every day with 288 penetration. You're going to be making a lot of credits because you don't need to switch out to premium shells. But if you do need premium shells, it's 330 penetration. That is absolutely incredible. So that is 390 alpha for 330 penetration on premium shells. This thing reloads every 9.78 seconds. The shell velocity as well, 1450 meters per second. It's like a laser, and that is why this tank is actually pretty popular among you know, all the veteran players. They love this thing because it has got a very accurate gun, shoot from a distance from a safe spot, and you have high penetration from a distance, meaning you can fire standard shells from a distance with high penetration equals easy credits. This is what makes the STRV S1 special, and with the G.I. Joe skin, I think it is a pretty good tank. So let's go on to the next tank. Here we go. This is the villain tank from the Cobra team, and this is on the Renegade T-54. Already a very famous, very popular tank. Now you've got a custom G.I. Joe skin. So for you guys who actually use this tank as your main credit earner, this is a great skin to pick up so that you have something different to look at all the time. Again, they've actually nailed the plastic texture that they try to recreate on their G.I. Joe tanks, and they've done a very, very good job. It is black and red. It does look like it's the bad guy tank, but make no mistake, this is a really good tank. This is the Renegade T-54, already very popular. Why? Again, same reason like the STRV S1, very high penetration on the stock shells, 226 penetration, doing 360 alpha. This thing is one of the best heavy tanks in tier 8, including the 703 version 2, the Skoda T-56. This is among the best heavy tanks in tier 8, especially if you are trying to grind out credits and crew XP, combat XP, because you can do a lot of damage because of the high chances of winning when you drive one of these tanks. This is why this tank is popular. You win a lot, you do a lot of damage, you don't have to fire a lot of premium shells, especially in tier 8, tier 9 games. This means a lot of credits, a lot of benefits that you will get, all the crew XP, combat XP you will get out of this tank. 9.78 seconds reload time. The shell velocity on the stock shells is 1080 meters per second, which is pretty decent, and the premium shells, if you need to use it, is 1380 meters per second. Very popular, very popular tank. 0.36 dispersion with 2.40 aim time. The moving dispersion is really low. This means this tank fires quite accurately on the move. When you're rocking your hull forward and backwards, poking out of corners, you are more likely to hit your turret than not. The only obvious weak spot is this, what is this called again? The bubble cupola. And this is of course the machine gun on the commander's hatch, and it is the most prominent weak spot on the Renegade if you need to fight against it. And of course the lower plate is pretty bouncy also, because it is kind of curved, and so sometimes when you shoot the lower plate it is not that reliable, especially if it's angled this way. Sometimes you pen, sometimes you don't. It's you know, that's why it makes this Renegade especially deadly and special. So there you go. This is the second tank from this season of G.I. Joe. Let's move on to the older tanks, which is the TS5. This is of course the first G.I. Joe tank. I think this came out maybe 2 years ago, and it really kind of took everyone by surprise, because no one really knew that you know, Wargaming and Hasbro, is this Hasbro company? I'm not sure, you know, strike up a deal to make G.I. Joe themed tanks, and I think this was a huge success, considering that this tank isn't that popular and not a lot of people drive it. I think it's done pretty well. This is the TS5, again, high penetration on standard shells, 238 stock penetration. It means if you do well in this tank, you can earn a lot of credits. Premium penetration is 300 millimeters, and this tank does 400 damage per shot. Very high DPM because it reloads in 8.15 seconds, aims in 1.73 seconds with a dispersion of 0.42. Not that great to shoot from a distance because of that not so good dispersion, but this tank is not meant to be shot from a distance, not like the STRV S1. This tank is actually a frontal assault tank. This is an assault tank destroyer. But if you are interested in this tank, you have this alternative skin, I would say, to play with. Really unique looking skin because it looks like a really toy tank. You can even see the seams, like you know, aka seams on you get on plastic toys, where they join the top half and the bottom half of the turret mantelet and the gun, and the seams make it really sells the plastic look, and it's really, you know, I don't really go for a lot of 3D skins. I usually run standard skins, but on something special like this and the way it was executed, it was done really well. So that is why I like these skins, and I will probably run these skins on all my tanks, on all the, you know, the G.I. Joe tanks anyway. But yep, this is the TS5. Let's move on to the last tank, which is the T-54 Mod 1 on the Cobra side. So therefore this is going to make it the villain tank driven by the bad guys. Again, very good modeling, very good textures. It's totally selling you the plastic look. In fact, this one is kind of tarnished a little bit. It looks like it's been played a lot. It's a used toy. It's got some rust on it. You know, the kid has been playing with this toy, you know, in the sandbox, getting it roughed up, scuffed a little bit. I like this look even more than the then the protagonist tank, then the green tanks, the villain tanks look a little bit more nasty. It looks a little bit more used. It's got anti-aircraft gun on the sides, on the commander's hatch. It looks pretty badass. It's got a couple of mini rockets hanging on the engine, the back of the tank. There is some mines as well. Wow, I didn't notice this one until today. Pretty cool looking and very different. This is the T-54 Mod 1, in case you don't know. This was the first T-54 variant. I think this tank came out before the T-44-100, and if you don't know about the T-44-100, it is one of the most famous and most popular premium tanks because it was a highly mobile, fast firing gun, very popular tank. The T-54 Mod 1, it was very popular before the T-54-100. It is not as popular as the T-44-100 now, but this tank still has its unique playstyle, which is it is a little bit slower, but it has better trollish armor. The penetration not that high, only 190 on standard penetration. But if you're playing in front lines or you're playing in all tier 8 matchmaking, 190 is sufficient enough to carry you throughout the game. Maybe not so in tier 9 games where you would need to dab that 2 key to use more premium premium shells for higher penetration. But in tier 8 matchmaking, in front lines, this 190 stock penetration is more than enough. The alpha damage only 250, but you must remember this tank reloads in 7.67 seconds. With food and BIA cruise skills, you reload somewhere around the 6.3 seconds. It is pretty fast firing gun. One of the most popular tanks in the past. Maybe not as popular now because we have so many choices with medium tanks, but for those of you who have owned this tank for a long time, getting a new skin to make it look a little bit different is a very viable option. The shell velocity on the stock shells only 895 meters per second. The premium shells 1119 meters per second. It aims in 2.11 seconds. I think this is similar to the T-44-100, and the dispersion also the same as the T-44-100. 0.35 dispersion. The moving dispersion isn't that great, 0.20, but this tank is not as mobile as a T-44-100. You play actually more like a heavy tank. You don't play right in the front like a heavy tank, but you play in support of your team's other heavy tanks. You try to hang with them and you try to support them. This was a very popular tank. It is not as popular now, but maybe if you get the Cobra skin, it might make you want to revisit this tank again. But anyway, these are the 4 tanks. I hope you took some useful information out of all the stats and out of all the having a close-up look at all the skins. By the way, this is my clan logo, Hydra. This is a new clan that I joined not too long ago. I just joined it because I like the way the logo look. It has some Hydra hawks, some geese with some crazy eyes. Really cool clan and really cool looking logo. That is all the G.I. Joe tanks for 2022. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.